I'm Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, and this is What the Heck, the podcast that dives into what the heck is going on in the world of health and well-being, explores how to optimize your mindset and your lifestyle, and shares practical tools so that you can achieve your fullest potential. Join me and a special guest each week as we discuss everything from biohacking to diet personalization to cutting-edge detox methods to setting and staying accountable to your goals. Ready to find out what the heck you can do to stay healthy, sharp, and at the top of your game? Let's get started. Hello there, Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp here, and welcome to this week's episode of the What the Heck podcast. I thought today what I would do is go over, I know, questions that I'm being asked all the time about is it healthy or not. So this podcast is going to be in 2 episodes because there's a lot to cover. So today we're going to do part 1 in answering if it is healthy or not. I love to do, true or false and ask people questions to make them think. So I think we have to start knowing that we are all unique. And I think if you've picked up a copy of my book or if you've heard me talk before, you'll hear me say that time and time again, that we're all different and that there is no one size fits all. So for us to try to do one thing when it comes to diet or detoxification or exercise or even mindset and so forth, we're all different, and we have to attend to our own needs with our genetic variation, with our environment variation, with our stressors. So many components are important to pay attention to. Even as we age, our needs are going to be different. So the format of this podcast today is going to be about answering true or false. So here's our first question. True or false, you can't teach a dog new tricks? And the answer to this is it depends. And I think it all depends on habits and how we're able to integrate those habits into our lives. And this is why, when I wrote the book, I didn't want to just have content that was great for people to read, but if they didn't act on it, then what was the point of knowing that information? So I think, I've talked about this many times. We need to know why we're doing this and why it's important to us. Otherwise, we're not going to follow through with a goal. For some people, if it's losing weight, it's having a wedding in 2 months. For some other people, it's because they've had a health scare or something. But, you need to know why you're doing it. And, the why can be a variety of different things for different people. So habits, I think, are so crucial. And this is why in the book, at the end of each chapters, I have people reflect on what they've learned and what habits they want to integrate in their life. So kind of, thinking about this every other way and looking at, 23 years in practice, looking at patients succeeding or not succeeding or giving up or whatever. And I know the main component is having a big enough why, but then, I think it's categorizing those habit changing into 3 different levels. So the level 1 is an easy one. It is something, the example that I often give is changing deodorant brand. You go to the store, make the buy or make the switch, and you're good to go. A level 2 hack is a little bit more complicated. It could be working out 3 or 4 times a week. So with this, you really need to plan. So you need to put it in your calendar, assign a time. You need to probably have backup times. If this doesn't happen, what other backup times do you have? So this one requires a little bit more logistic and implementation. And a level 3 is something way more complex, like, losing 20 pounds, stopping smoking, doing a full elimination diet where you have to be prepared. So all of those levels require different steps for us to be successful. And I think, level 3 has the accountability part, which is so important. Sometimes stating to the world what you're going to do is a huge accountability piece. Sometimes it's pairing up with somebody else that has a goal. And then the rewards is actually also the other component that's really important in a level 3. So the answer to you can't teach a dog new trick, I would say it is false. Just a matter of deciding to do so, understanding why we want to do that, and then taking the habits we want to change in small, and putting them in small action items, and knowing if they're hard to do or if they're going to be easier to implement. So how's this relevant to you? Well, if I want you to ask yourself the question right now: are there things you've been saying, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this, and you keep pushing it? Why is that the case? And do you have a big enough why? And have you looking into your habit? Have you investigated into your habits to see what needs to happen? A mentor of mine always said, Nathalie, what needs to happen for this to happen? I know it's not great English, but by golly, it made the point that what was it that I needed to change to get the results that I wanted. True or false, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and we've all grew up with this. I know my mom was making it a point for me to eat before I went out the door. Sometimes it was literally sugar, not knowing, pastry or what have you, her not knowing the effect. So breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and the answer to this is it depends. It depends on the person, and it depends on what you're eating. Unfortunately, with industrialization, we have those ready to go, cereals and muffins, and it's all sugar and it's all carbs. So here we are loading ourselves up with that in the morning, and what it does, it affects our blood glucose, and knowing that a lot of people now are glucose are suffering from glucose sensitivity or are pre-diabetic. I think it's a big epidemic, and it also depends because you may want to look into doing more intermittent fasting approach to eating. So meaning pushing your window of eating, not every day, but a few days a week, to instead of 8 hours while you're sleeping, to increase it to 10 and 12 and 14. Now, everybody is going to be different, but the idea with intermittent fasting is that it gives our body a break, and it helps to decrease inflammation, because a slide here that shows the insulin receptor with the glucose, and if our cells are inflamed, the glucose cannot attach to the insulin receptor, and our glucose keeps circulating in our blood, and the insulin's gonna try to secrete, the pancreas is going to try to secrete even more insulin, so it becomes a vicious cycle. So reducing that inflammation is key, and I'm not saying that intermittent fasting is the only way to go about it, but it is definitely a good way to do. And it also depends because we unfortunately use glucose as fuel way more than we should. Ketone bodies are much cleaner fuel for the body to use. I have a whole chapter in the book on the ketogenic diet and how to eat a more keto adapted diet as well. Again, it depends, and the ketogenic diet full blown may not be for everyone, but I think we can all agree that decreasing our carbs and our glucose intake and increasing our consumption of good fats like avocado and nuts and salmon and coconut oil is great way to use better fuel for not just the brain but the body as well. So it depends on your amount of inflammation, but we do know that glucose or sugar unfortunately increases inflammation in the body. So what is relevant to you here? Look at what you're consuming in the morning. Is it loaded with sugar? You may want to rethink what you're eating for breakfast, and you may want to start integrating intermittent fasting a few days a week to give your body a bit of a break and to decrease cellular inflammation, which in turn is going to help the body's hormone and nutrients get in your cells and the toxins to get out. Talking about toxin, that's the third question here. True or false? Detox diets are fad and not necessary. So detox are such a trendy and hot topic, and it's not easy because some people are way more toxic than others with heavy metal and so forth. So again, it depends on our toxic load overall, but knowing that we are bombarded and we're part of this chemical soup that is thrown at us every day with the over 80,000 commercial and industrial chemicals, and then the fact that 2,000 new chemicals are registered for use every day item in everyday item is scary. So that's our personal products, that's prescriptions, that's our house cleaner, our water, the air that we breathe. So we are bombarded. So it all depends how our body is able to detoxify. And I like the analogy of a bucket, and we all have a bucket, and some of us, our buckets are pretty darn full already. Some of us are not as full. And it all depends on how we detoxify, what we've been exposed to in our young days, our work environment. It depends on so many things. But what can happen when our body overflows with either toxin, trauma, or infection? It can give us a slew of symptoms like brain fog, like high blood pressure, digestive issue, dizziness, fatigue, headaches, depression, muscle aches, and joint aches as well, hormonal issues as well. So we really want to attend to this inflammation. And then here's a great picture of a cell here, and not that we are going to do biology 101 here, but when the cell has inflammation, as I was mentioning earlier, nutrients and hormone can't get in as easily, so we become insensitive, if you want, and toxin can't get out as easily. So detox diets are fad and not necessary. I would like to promote instead a detox lifestyle to really try to detoxify ourselves daily and decrease our toxic load overall. So it should be looked at more into a lifestyle. But when people need to detoxify, I think this should be done with the help of a healthcare practitioner, and you should get tested before and after. There's different ways to test for toxicity level, but if you're going to do something to this extent because you have major symptoms, it should be monitored throughout. It depends also of your genetics. I know that I've done few presentation on this, but SNPs are single nucleotide polymorphism, and there are little errors in our code. We all have them, but knowing this kind of information, you can kind of learn how your body is metabolizing things and detoxifying things, and then you can help support with lifestyle changes, nutrition, and supplementation. So it really is a complex thing. So I don't think it's a fad. I think it should be truly a lifestyle. How's that relevant to you? Well, you have to ask yourself if you're experiencing some of the symptoms that I talked about, and then really pay a close look at your environment, at your habits, at your cleaning products, at your beauty products, and see if you can clean this up as best as you can. Next question, true or false? I eat well, I don't need supplements. And the answer to that, I think you can see how these have the answer of it depends. So food first, always, but unfortunately, the quality of our soil is not what it used to be. And let's face it, most people on a daily basis do not take the time to eat the color of the rainbow. Therefore, we're not getting all the phytonutrients that we should from our food. As I mentioned, depletion of our soil is a huge thing. So a tomato or an apple today versus 50 years ago, very different. Actually, here it says, in order to receive the same amount of iron you used to get from an apple in 1950, by 1998 you had to eat 26 apples. And then add to this the genetically modified food and the chemicals that are added to our food, and it just adds to the equation. So how's that, or what is relevant to you when it comes to that? Well, food first. Really try to do the color of the rainbow, but if you know that you're not, I think it's really crucial now to support with supplements. Now, again, you want to measure those things, and there are some tests that you can do through your natural health practitioner to measure your minerals and your vitamins to make sure that you're not deficient. This would not get done, or not a lot of those would be measured in a regular blood test. So you do have to invest a little bit of money to get this information. And lastly, true or false, the harder you exercise, the better your results are. And, you know, again, it depends. And one of the things that it depends of is our adrenals. If we suffer from adrenal fatigue, doing hard exercise is not going to be good. And when I say hard exercise, would be somebody has adrenal fatigue and they're running marathons, they're not doing themselves a favor because their adrenals are going to steal building blocks from other hormones in their body. So again, it depends on the person. So maybe for someone who's suffering from adrenal fatigue, you know, speed walking, yoga, and meditation might be their best form of physical activity. HIIT training, high intensity interval training, you know, could be also an alternative if the adrenals are not too tapped out. And going back to the adrenal produce cortisol, and well, they produce adrenaline as well. Adrenaline is our short reaction to stress. You know, you'll hear people saying, "Oh my God, I was a close call in my car. My adrenaline was pumping." It's that, you know, fight or flight, you know, acute response. But cortisol, when it gets out of balance and is peaking at the wrong time or is depleted, is more a sign of chronic stress. And that's why sleeping is so important in having the proper patterns for cortisol and melatonin being released throughout the day. Harder is not better. I mean, I'm a chiropractor and I just shake my head sometime of how, you know, I'm happy to see how determined some people are to keep going with their physical activity or their sports, but to which extent? I joke and it's not really funny, that you can't go to Canadian Tires and buy new parts, or any other store in the States for our American friends, and just say, oh, I need a new L5 and just, you know, replace it. So what you have is what you have. So you really want to make sure that you're not wearing out your joints more than you have to, and that you make sure that you are in proper alignment, not just for the better function of your nervous system, but also to not wear out your joints on evenly. So what is relevant to you here? Have a look at your exercise. 1, are you exercising enough? 2, are you exercising too much and your body is giving you signs that you might be suffering from adrenal fatigue, that your joints are sore? So make sure that you see your chiropractor regularly, that, you know, you make sure you balance your core muscle either by seeing a physiotherapist, a personal trainer. Make sure that you attend to support functional movement of your neuromusculoskeletal system. So as you can see here, I love this picture. Your journey begins here, and these were 5 of the true or false or the myth that I get asked all the time. And we will continue with part 2 in another podcast. But thank you for joining us on this podcast, the What the Hack podcast. And as always, I'm Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, your host of the podcast. And my mission is truly to lead this movement and creating a tribe of health hacker, people that are on the quest to be better, to be healthier, and work at their full potential. So I will see you next week for our next episode. Have a great day. I'm Dr. Nathalie Beauchamp, and this is What the Hack, the podcast that dives into what the heck is going on in the world of health and well-being, explores how to optimize your mindset and your lifestyle, and shares practical tools so that you can achieve your fullest potential. Join me and a special guest each week as we discuss everything from biohacking to diet personalization to cutting-edge detox methods to setting and staying accountable to your goals. Ready to find out what the hack you can do to stay healthy, sharp, and at the top of your game? Let's get started. This has been a Wellness on the Go production.